R10,000 ignition wad slash preheater ignition wad. This is it. It's almost fully assembled. There's 4 electric matches dipped in BKN. There's BKN pasted on top of this APCP chunk of fuel that I made a while back. It's slit down all the sides, cut all the way through, and I'll explain that in a moment. There's a phenolic band around it also. Then there's the top portion of the APCP, and then there's a hole in the center for the time delay fuse. That'll go to the black powder chip in the injector. So what we're doing is we're making an exact replica of this, because this is what I'm going to use. This is flight hardware, or flight. This is used for the ignition of the flight. These are the black powder chips that I've pressed, drilled, and fused for the correct length of fuse for the correct time. So this is the APCP chunk. Okay, now I casted this in a tube, but I've removed all that. And this is the phenolic riser. And as you can see, it's slit. Not all the way through, but almost. And then there's one that's all the way through. So this is slit and this is slit. So this will get cut all the way down, and then it'll get a wrap of electrical tape. Now the purpose of cutting all this and pie cutting all this is that if for some reason this dislodges in the combustion chamber and falls down, we don't want this to plug the nozzle. Plugging the nozzle is disastrous. Big boom. So by slitting and pie cutting, when this hits, whatever it hits, there's a very, 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 very good chance that it'll all break apart and just get expelled out of the nozzle. So this is all just APCP core shavings that were taken out when I hand drilled this. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna assemble this ignition wad preheater assembly. We're gonna make a second one of them identical, and then we're just gonna go test it to make sure everything's good time delay wise. So like I said, this did get revised 5 more times, and that main flight hardware also got updated, revised 5 more times, and tested a handful of more times. Make my own ignition sources, pour my own rocket motors, you know, make my own ignition compounds. Like this is an iron oxide based thermite. I got different types of thermite. I do use copper thermite. It is borderline. No, it's not borderline. It is. It should actually be classified as an explosive. Copper thermite's some pretty energetic stuff. So I just wanted to state that. But so this wad is pretty much ready to go. Under normal circumstances, this black powder chip, the fuse would actually be like half the length, because this chip is actually in the injector body, and the injector body is roughly right here, and then this would actually sit about here, so you'd end up with something like that. But this is for testing purposes, and I'm looking for delay times. What I also did is I wrapped this fast burn yellow fuse with electrical tape just to help shield it from the chaos that's going to occur here. So last but not least, This is iron oxide based thermite with some magnesium shavings in it. It just helps generate extra heat, and that's actually really necessary during the preheat of a hybrid motor upon ignition. The less you have to heat that combustion chamber, the less work the motor has to do, meaning pulling heat away from the actual actions of combustion by, you know, flashing that liquid to a gas. So the hotter you can get it, the better off you are, ignition purposes. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking this band of thermite and I'm trying to even it all out. Get a pretty even swath across the base of it. I don't know if you can see that, but this is almost the last thing you want to go off. So what we do, bear with me. What we do is I basically punch like a number 30 drill bit into the side, just a little bit below the top of that APCP there, and I insert this fast burn yellow time delay fuse into that hole. And I make a slit. So on this one, this bag is a little on the wide side. On this one, the bag is narrower and it sits just at the bottom of this phenolic cup. So there is a chance when this burns to here that it will trigger this before that fuse goes, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like I stated, we want that preheat in that chamber when that we want the preheat, we want the combustion chamber to be preheated as much as possible prior to that injector piston dropping open. As long as we're within a reasonable amount of time, we're good. But again, you don't want to over tape this because remember, God forbid, it falls or drops before this has pretty much completely burned. We don't want to plug that nozzle. This is exactly why you test, and test more. If you see what happened here, the electric matches that were dipped in BKN to give them the extra heat to ignite this APCP had so much energy on them, they blew themselves right out of the holes. So to remedy this situation, I drilled a number 30 hole for each match and then slotted it with a mill bit and then retained it with a dab of hot glue. So that initial energy and expanding gas can get out of the hole without the match removing itself. Because if you look closely, it actually only ignites on one match. So after the first test, I realized there's a bunch more issues that need to be ironed out. So I addressed each issue as it arose, and then finally got it all dialed in, as you'll be able to see in the last video. So that's what I got for now. I'll keep updating as I progress along. I appreciate you tuning in. If you don't mind, hit the like button.